Good afternoon, one and all present here, and welcome to the webinar hosted by Asian Law College under the Legal Lecture Series. We shall be having an insightful session on the role of in-house counsel in international framework. And we are extremely delighted to announce that we have amongst us a very special guest, Mr. Abhijit Mukhopadhyay, President Legal and General Counsel in the Hinduja Group at its global headquarters in London. He is a non-executive director on the boards of group companies in 7 countries. Hinduja Group is a 15 billion US dollar yearly turnover multinational employing 150,000 people in 60 countries and is in the businesses of automobile, foundry, lubricant, banking, healthcare, explosives, media, BPO, power generation, oil and gas, cybersecurity, and hospitality. Mr. Abhijit was the Global Vice Chairman of the International Chamber of Commerce Commission of Arbitration, Paris, and currently member of the Commission, member of the India Business Forum of the Confederation of Indian Industry, UK, and Advisory Council member of the Centre for Commercial Law Studies of Queen Mary University of London. Mr. Abhijit is the Committee License Officer of the General Counsel Forum of the International Bar Association. In 2010, he was listed as one of the top 50 legal professionals in India, and in 2016 as one of the top 25 general counsels of Indian origin. In 2018, he was featured in the list of top 99 general counsels from 31 countries. He has also been featured in the Legal 500 Top General Counsel's Power List for 2016 and 2018. His articles have been published globally. He also has spoken in international seminars around the world and has trained a lot of young professionals like you. We welcome you, sir, to Asian Law College and would request you to kindly take the session forward.
Thank you, Garima, for this colorful introduction of myself. Thank you for inviting me and for having me amongst the students. I have been mentoring students for the last many years. My overall professional career is around 35 years, and at least last 25, 28 years, I have been mentoring students. Out of my professional career of 35 years, around 16 years I spent in India. I was the General Counsel, Company Secretary, as also Director of 7 companies in India. These are all very large multinationals, public sector, private sector, joint sector companies. After that, 19 years back, I was invited by the Hinduja Group to join them and come to their global headquarters in London. So I'm in London for the last 19 years. But to be very honest and frank with you, I have never lost touch with the students. So whenever I get an opportunity, despite my very, very hectic schedule, international traveling all the time, I always get into mentoring mode and try to interact with the students. And do you know, all these recognitions, etc., beyond that, what I consider as extremely valuable, when I go to many places, when people, younger generation, they come up and say, "Sir, do you remember we were your students?" And then I become quite excited when they say that, "Do you remember, sir, I was your student and today I am on the board of this multinational company, or I am running my own law firms. So many lawyers I have retained, I have engaged. I am a very senior executive in any organization." When I hear all these things, then always I think and I thank to God that God has given me the opportunity to mentor students who do well in life. That's absolutely important. So that's why the moment I was approached by Ravi I thought that despite being a Thursday and we are in the group midst of many international deals going on, I thought, let me try to start interacting with the students before I get busy with my other meetings. And Ravi very gracefully agreed to prepone it by half an hour. So thank you very much, Ravi, for that. There are two reasons for which I love to interact with students. Still, I do it, as Garima also said in my introduction. I am in the advisory council of Queen Mary University of London. Now, Queen Mary University of London's commercial law department is the 6th best in the world. Our advisory council is headed by a very senior Supreme Court judge of UK. So you can imagine that this is the council who shapes up the post-graduation course in Queen Mary University, where lots of Indian students come. We also deal with the PhD students who try to do thesis. So again, it comes or it boils down to interaction with the students. Many times when I have been requested and when I've got time, I go and take classes in the university. The reason why I do it, and I would urge upon today's students, tomorrow's very successful executives, lawyers, to do it. There are two reasons for that. First reason is that when I interact with students, I forget my age. I always think that I am interacting with very young generation. I always consider they may lack in experience, but in terms of intelligence, knowledge, in terms of the kind of clever that they are far, far better than me. I have got no doubt about it. So when you interact with them, it becomes a two-way traffic. I try to share my experience, my knowledge, what I have acquired last 25, 30, 35 years. Second is most important, I always get knowledge, their own thought process from the students. That's what I said. I never think that I am doing some charity by interacting with the students. I do this in order to gain myself with the knowledge, wisdom, because they are completely different generations. And that makes me not only very happy, but in touch with the ground reality. We may be sitting in our own pedestal, but we may not know what is really happening in the ground. So these are the two-way traffic which helps me. So whenever I get an opportunity of interacting with the students, I stop everything. Even in my organization, I do a lot of webinar, etc. In fact, tomorrow, I have invited one of the global law firms, David Weiss and Plimpton. They are presenting to all my legal colleagues all over the world a particular topic. Now, the more you interact with them at the intellectual level, your knowledge becomes extremely clearer. And that is what finally it matters. Having said that, a couple of suggestions, I would dare to call it as advice because you are far more clever than me. Whatever I have seen in the life, I can only share with you in the next couple of minutes. You are all young professionals, whichever discipline you are in. But since I am a lawyer, I presume that I have been talking to a large number of students in the Faculty of Law. I have seen in my life, whether you are in-house, whether you are external counsel, whether you are engaged in any law firm, employed in any law firm, right from the beginning itself, try to develop your own brand. See, the organization is far, far greater than us. There is no second opinion on that. Organization is far beyond an individual. But then an organization is known by the kind of individuals, professionals that they have. So therefore, try to develop right from the beginning itself, no matter whether you are in your 20s or 30s or whatever, develop your own brand. When you think of brand, you think of so many things. If I say, how about a Tata product? Now, that is what is called the brand. Now, lots of things come to your mind when I talk about Tatas: durability, reliability, their own ethical values. So lots of things come to your mind. If I say, do you know how Tatas function? How does Tata work? Now, Tatas are not the only brand in the world. There are so many brands. I think since it is the largest conglomerate in India with a $105-106 billion group, I just picked up the name. There are many other brands in the world as well as in India also. So my first suggestion to my young friends will be, go for creating a brand, but brand does not mean really publicity. I do not have that kind of idea in my mind. We are all lawyers. We are all legal professionals. We are all administrative professionals. So therefore, our brand does not mean that you advertise everywhere. Your own qualities will speak for yourself. You need not have to go and tell to the other people, do you know I am such and such and I have done this. The moment they interact with you, they will realize that this person is completely different. So go for building your own brand. Now it is an effort which will continue throughout your life. You can't say, now I have done enough. My brand is known, Apple is known all over the world. So now I think let me relax and mint money. नहीं, ऐसा तो नहीं होता. I think you have to continue to add value to your brand. Similarly, as legal professionals, we have to continue to add values, whatever brand we have been able to create. So in brand, quality is most important. You know, I was trained in Hamamatsu in Japan because I was the general counsel, chief general manager, and company secretary in Maruti Suzuki. And at the time, I was trained on the quality management in Japan in their headquarters. And later on, I was also trained in the total quality management of Indian Aluminium, which was a part of a global conglomerate called Alcan of Canada. And there we were taught about the total quality management. And what we have been taught, that quality really matters. And when I talk about quality, don't think in terms of only Maruti cars, Suzuki cars, or any other product. It encompasses everybody. When I see a person, in that person, I see quality. No matter whether he's a lawyer, he's an engineer, he's a chartered accountant, he's a cost accountant, doctor. So therefore, whichever profession one is, quality is very important. And remember that quality every time, all the time, 365 days in a year, 24/7. I can't say today I'm in the best mood, so I will give my best quality. I will conclude many international deals. Tomorrow I'm not feeling well, I'm feeling low. So tomorrow I'm really not bothered. I may be there in the meetings, I may not be there, I may contribute, I may not contribute. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होगा. I think when I think of, for example, Ravi or Garima, as the case may be, I think of certain qualities. Similarly, when I think of any one of you, I have to think of certain qualities. So always remember, try to develop your brand. Brand comes from quality. Quality is 24/7, 365 days job. How long I have to maintain the quality? As long as you live. Quality, we are here in the professional environment, but that's why talking quality in the professional terms. But as a person also, quality is extremely important. That is another philosophical discussion. If I get into that, then I have to skip all my meetings throughout the day. So I dare not to go to that area. So I am restricting myself quality as a professional. And when I think of quality, I think of many things. I think of ethical standards in quality. I think of righteousness in the quality. I think of a person who is very knowledgeable. I think of intellectual firepower. I think of articulation. I think of most importantly, and that is unfortunately lacking, application of knowledge. Again, I keep telling, I am in the professional environment. So therefore, my talk will be centered around with the profession and the organizational aspects, the companies and all. I'm not going beyond that. I may be a very knowledgeable person. I may be an extremely nice person. I may be a person who always smile. I may be a non-confrontational person. But if at the end of the day, whatever knowledge that I have been able to acquire through God, through hard work, I should be able to use it for the betterment of the organization, because the loyalty lies with the organization. Sometime back, I was asked a question, to whom I am loyal. I said, I am loyal to my profession. If I am loyal to my profession, automatically I am loyal to everybody. I am loyal to the organization. I'll be loyal to my own employers. I'll be loyal to my own bosses, because I'm very loyal to my profession. So therefore, my suggestion will be build up quality the moment you enter into a profession, build up your brand image. And when I think of you, certain features have to come to my mind. Is the person knowledgeable? Does the person know how to apply his knowledge for the better good of the businesses or whichever work he does? Does he know how to interact with others? Does he know how to be articulate, express his or her views? And then, does he offer me quality all the time? Is he or is she consistent? So it is extremely important, consistency. If you are not ready to give an answer, you are not expected to be ready all the time. I remember because when I joined with my present group, at the beginning, I was asked to offer my own advice, etc. And I used to say that I need some time because I am very new to this global conglomerate. And then the businesses are very, very technical, complex. I need to understand. So I am unable to give you the advice in 1 minute time. So generally speaking, my advice will be do this or don't do that. But then I need to understand, I need to study. I understand that there is an element of, uh, you know, uh, promptness required from me to advise, but I will come back after 1 hour, after 2 hours, after 1 day. I need some time, and then I negotiate timing with my employer or whatsoever it may be. Because the expectation at the end of the day is that doesn't matter if I am 1 day late, but if I give a proper quality, practical advice, which will give benefit to the employer, ultimately at the end of the day, that is what matters. So therefore, quality is important. I have seen many places people jump up and try to express their views. It is important to be noticed in any meeting, in any seminar, wherever you are participating. But it is equally important to be noticed for something which is worthwhile, value added. Not really, I also attended and I also raised a question, how is the day, etc. People will not remember, you will annoy people. So when you talk about quality, you talk about persistent quality, you talk about value addition. So therefore, when you are starting your life, again, forgive me, I do not know the composition of the people who are attending this webinar. So in general, I will say that build up your brand image, build up your own knowledge, build up application of knowledge, be articulate, and then apply your knowledge for the betterment of whatsoever. You may be doing some charity. I give so many pro bono advices, etc. But I never considered that these are all pro bono kind of thing. I need not have to give my best. If I give my 50%, wo bhi chalega. No, I do not discriminate when I am giving my own knowledge or advice to my own businesses, to the CEOs of those businesses. In the same way, when I give advice to students, whenever I get an opportunity, the quality of my advice will be the same. I do a lot of mentoring within the group because, as Garima also said, it is a huge group, 150,000 people working in 60 countries. We have got a business turnover of $15 billion per year plus, and we are in 11 business verticals. So it's really a global conglomerate. We are in the business for the last 103, 104 years. So it's a very, very reputable group. So where my quality of advice has to be consistent, and maintaining consistent quality while giving advices for so long itself is really a challenge. So if I'm not ready, if you ask me something, I will say I'm not ready. Can I get 15 minutes time to 15 hours time so that I can come back to you? Because people expect consistency. Similarly, value-added advice. Similarly, advice which will help you. Similarly, consistent advice. One day some advice, if I am doing some charity, another advice, no. So therefore, develop your brand image right from day one. And at the end of the day, remember that you will be remembered not where you worked or what you have done and what you have not done. You will be remembered as a very good person, human being, ultimately at the end of the day. And that encompasses everything. So at the end of the day, when you hang up your boots, maybe after 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, if somebody say, oh, I know X, I know Y, and he or she is a very, very good person, very nice person, that is the brand image that you will be able to create. In conclusion, I will say you may find it today a little bit confusing, but while you go ahead in your life, in your professional career, you will find that this will be extremely important. That as a person, how do you establish yourself as some kind of good human being, both as a person, similarly as a professional? How do you establish yourself as a very good professional? And that is possible provided right from day one, you are after creating your own brand. I am distinguishing consciously between brand image and brand. Brand is a brand is a brand. Image is a different thing. We can't go around and start, talking big and try to develop our own image. That image never sustains. So if you are, in the race of developing your own brand, mind that, identify what are the qualities you have got. Remember qualities all the time, every time, and remember how to enhance the qualities. And ultimately, that quality should benefit other than you, others also, be it in the society, be it in the business, be it your employer, be it everywhere. So that's very important. So I thought that instead of giving a theoretical kind of introduction, I will give you some kind of philosophical which I believe in. And mind that whatever you preach, please practice. That's the most important thing. And that is the cruelest part. If I tell something which I don't practice, then it hits. And mind that it is difficult to develop quality, brand, etc. for such a long time, because as I say, quality, Japanese say quality every time, all the time. And then destruction takes only maybe a second. And we are seeing around us so many examples. So maintaining the quality is important. It is quite possible to have the quality, but then maintaining it for so long for the benefit of others is something very challenging. So I will stop it there. And if there are questions, I'll be too happy to take
Well, yes, sir, definitely. We have a
them.
lot of questions, but I would firstly like to thank you for highlighting such important components, I think, which are not just important in the legal domain, but for the existing existence of the human. Constant focus on quality and assuring that we're able to maintain few qualities of ourselves to be successful personally and professionally is what, if our students learn, definitely they're going to excel in life. So I think this was more about humanity, and you would definitely excel as a professional if personally you have some sound qualities. Great, sir. Indeed, there were a lot of learnings which were coming out when you were talking. So we have a couple of questions from the students. So if you're okay, can we start with that?
Sure, sure.
So the first question is, as a representative of legal fraternity, what according to you are the 5 most important habits that are must for all law students?
That's a very interesting question. So I must say that you need to have many good habits, but then you become quite generic if you think in terms of what kind of habits I will have. So it is better that you focus areas where you will concentrate throughout your life. And I emphasize throughout your life. As I said that it is important to continue your professional journey as a very good professional right from day one. So 5 qualities what I can think of. Number 1 is knowledge. These days, either you know or you don't know. Our generation has gone, our time has gone. Chalta hai, yeah, managing, all those things you never hear. Do you know merger and acquisition? Do you know how to fight out a cross-border litigation? Do you know how to handle cross-border merger? Do you know how to cross-examine a witness? Do you know how to structure a deal? Don't tell me, yeah, I did it there, I did it there. No, just tell me yes or no. I'm not testing your knowledge, but I am trying to find out whether you know or not. If you say that I know, I come to you. If you say that I do not know, I will not come to you. If you say I have got experience, but as we go along, I can improve my knowledge, you tell me your problem, your issue, I'll be able to comprehend it and therefore answer it. So, knowledge. It is only knowledge, knowledge, and knowledge. There is nothing beyond that, there is nothing below it. It is only knowledge. USP is only either you know or you don't know. There is nothing called in between. But don't get me wrong. When I say you know, I'm not thinking that you, I, Garima, Ravi, we are the best of brains available in the world. No, no, not really. But do you have some ideas when we talk about this? Yes, yes, I have got some ideas. So I know how to progress. But then while progressing, I will develop more ideas and knowledge. So first and foremost thing, knowledge, knowledge, and knowledge. Second thing I will say, hard work. No substitute of hard work. There is no shortcut. We all know. So I need not have to elaborate. Third thing, it is not enough to acquire the knowledge. You have to update the knowledge. When we started 35 years back, when I started, it was the zamana of telex, fax, teleprinter, all have gone, disappeared. All those laws even no longer exist. It's a completely different sets of law which keep coming every time, every year, every month, new regulations are coming up. So you have to update, upgrade yourself. There is a quality. It does not mean that you need to know everything, but you should know. If I talk about a subject, yes, I know there could be a regulation under FEMA, there could be a regulation under the Civil Procedure Code. So therefore, we have to check that. So this is the third parameter. Fourth parameter is that be articulate, because if you do not know how to express yourself, then obviously you will lose the game. Nobody will listen to you. And fifth, I can think of is that interact with people. At the end of the day, as we go along in your profession, you will find that it is not enough if you have got all the four qualities, but if you do not know how to interact with people, you should have interest in people. Just yesterday, I finished a huge deal, and the way I handled it, basically become friendly with the other side and try to see through your own efforts as a person who is there to help the other side, you are in a position to conclude the deal or not. So that's very important. Having interest in people, interest in what you do, and interaction with the people. So to my mind, these are the five broad categories.
Great. Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is, how can, according to you, a student decide the best suited career for himself or herself? Or should they keep an open mind to appreciate all options available and get into the first received opportunity?
This is a very difficult question, and I have to see it in the perspective of East, namely my own country, India, and see in the perspective of the West, where I live for the last 19 years. In the East, it is still family dominated, family oriented. So therefore, if my father was in this profession, there is an expectation I would go into that profession. I'm not telling that things are static, things are changing there also. And our youngsters, they are also going into different profession. In the West, it is absolutely different. The whole education system in the West has been developed in a way that you do what you like, because you will never be able to succeed in your life unless and until you do what you like most. But if I like most, that also I have to, earn my own living. So even if I go to the profession of, if I become an artist, if I become a singer, etc., then I also have to think over how I can earn money so that I can sustain myself, because life is not all about fantasy and roses, which you will realize after some time. So it is a very difficult question. I will say that there has to be a proper conversation, and we need to treat our children as adult as and when they are crossing 18. Very quickly, I'll give my own example. I've got only one daughter, and I have had this conversation that what she wants to do. And eventually, I told her that, look, I'm not pressurizing you to go into my legal profession just because I am there, but these are the advantages that you will be getting if you get into this profession, but it is up to you. So she started with history degree. History degree is very important in the Western world, honors in history. And later on, she sat with me. We had days of conversation. And she said that, Dad, I want to be an English qualified solicitor. I said, are you convinced? She said, yes. And becoming an English qualified solicitor is very, very hard in this part of the world. So eventually, she became, and she is a solicitor in a very good law firm. She is doing very well. And I'm glad that I never imposed on her, ye karo, wo karo. You take the decision. I am here as a facilitator. I can tell you that if you do this, you will gain this, but it is finally your call, because you have to be successful. There's no point in telling I am successful. Your children should be successful. So that success will come if somebody loves what he or she is doing. And that will come through a proper conversation and dialogue with the children, because as I said at the beginning itself, they're extremely clever, extremely informative. So treat them as adult, talk to them, and then get the suggestion, give the suggestion, and then come to a joint collaboration so that nobody regrets after some time.
Great, sir. Sir, as a President, Legal and General Counsel, Hinduja Group, what are the constant challenges you face and what do you think is generally the best approach to tackle the same?
Another great question. See, the most difficult thing that I have to do when I feel that it is important to say no to a decision, stand up and say that I personally feel this is not a good idea to do, but it is up to you. If you want to go ahead and do it, but I'm telling you, these are the risks associated with the decision. And I'm talking about business decision, nothing else. Now, standing up, not to play to the gallery, to the ultimate people who are there to make a decision is extremely important. You may be unpopular, but as you go along, I think people will realize that he or she is a no-nonsense kind of guy. If he or she says that it is not a good idea, let us think of carefully that why he is telling or she is telling. So therefore, standing up and then say no is difficult, but never exercise your veto power all the time. Because my mantra, which I have told many times in many meetings, if businesses are there, I'm there. If businesses are not there, nobody will retain me and pay me my salary. So be helpful to the business. So no is all right if the organization has given you that decision-making veto power, but use it very judiciously, very sparsely, and very intermittently where you feel that it is important to say no. But my motto in life, even if I say no, I try to come up with an alternate solution, because in my mind, the only thing remains that if businesses are there, we are all there. We are a commercial entity. We are not a charitable institution. Even for charity also, you need money to fund your charitable activities. So this is the most difficult thing.
I think the students need to be resourceful towards the organizations always, and ultimately their knowledge would, come into use. Right. So the next question is, what do you think is the most common mistake that law graduates commit during this period of education in law college? And what suggestions would you like to give to these students so that they ensure that they don't commit those mistakes?
Another great question. Whenever you are studying law, either as a student or as a professional, because as I said, you have to keep studying throughout your life. First, you read the law, absorb the law, and then try to see how it can be used for the benefit of either an individual or a business or an organization, as the case may be. This is the single most common mistake I find everybody does. In my bio intro, Garima, you have said, I'm involved with the CII's UK Executive Committee. Here, our main role is to interact with the British government, to meet the MPs, parliament members, talk to them, talk to the ministers, because there are 800 plus Indian companies operating in the UK or in London. So we look after their interest. And some time back, I had an introduction with the then education minister. And I told him that the main problem that we are facing is that there is a depth of application of law. The youngsters, they really do not know. And he told me, Matthew Hancock, that why Abhijit, you were telling. I said that I deal with Oxford University. I know that they're great institutions. Even Queen Mary, these are all global institutions. But de facto, the study is always theoretical. It is not really practical. So when I get a fresh law graduate, I am not expecting that he will start discussing issues with me because I am 35 years senior than him or than her. But the practical application, the attitude to go for a solution, it is missing. So it is not enough because you remember when you are called in a meeting, there are legal issues. You will be called not to give your own bhashan and lecture and to impress everybody. Do you know? I know every section, subsection. Nobody wants to know section, subsection. Just tell me that I want to do this business. Can I do in this country? Is it an acceptable structuring? Do you foresee any problem from tax? Nobody wants to know section 322 of any income tax act. Just tell me in general. So therefore, it is a given thing that you know the law, but it is not given that you know how to apply the law. So that is a common mistake right from day one as young student. When you are learning something, wait for a while. The moment you study a legal part, just you try to think over that how I can apply it. Does it make sense? Because at the end of the day, whether it is commercial law or any other law, it needs application. So if you develop that kind of attitude right from day one, you will find that a very interesting and resourceful, purposeful career ahead of you.
Right. So the next question is pretty much related to what you mentioned, that the law schools probably today are not focusing on the practical aspects. So the question says that legal education is a combination of both the theoretical and clinical legal subjects that focus on various activities like moot court, client counseling, etc. How important do you think are these activities for students to grow their practical understanding of law? And is there any activity that you can suggest which the law schools should consider and should encourage as part of the education system?
Another interesting question, and forgive me if I try to give my example, because I can give only my example. I can't give others' example. You know, it is important that knowledge is enough or application is enough. It is also important that how can you convince. Garima, I would request you to slightly, remind me what exactly you are trying to ask. Forgive me for that.
No worries, sir. Sir, it is exactly what we wanted to know is that, as you mentioned, law schools today are focusing probably more on the theoretical component. So, in fact, we also, as a law school, promote a lot of activities such as moot court or
Get your
client
point. Sorry,
counseling.
I'll stop you. Yeah, got your moot
Okay,
court and everything.
right.
You know, one principle always remember, which I try to practice in my life, always mix with people who know better than you. Because, you know, you will be able to develop your knowledge leaps and bounds by no time. You know, in my London global headquarters, before pandemic, now we are all working from home. Hopefully we'll be able to go back soon. Every single day, Monday to Friday, from 2:30 to 3:15, 45 minutes, I meet lawyers, legal professionals. They come from around the world. The appointments are all fixed in advance. Many of them over the years have become friends. I know them personally. So whenever they land in London, I think they not only go and visit their own places, but then they will make a point to come and meet me. I have seen, why did I do? A number of people ask me that you remain so busy, but then why did you spend 45, 50 minutes interacting with them? I said that, look, they come from all over the world. Nobody is asking for any business. Never make a mistake that they are here to get some business. They are here to have a chit chat with you. Now, the advantage is you become friends. So whenever you need them, pick up the phone and you can talk to them because you know them personally, they know you personally, and all happens without any money involved, without any cost, free of cost. Second thing is that in 50 minutes to 1 hour, you get to know what is happening in that part of the world. Maybe they are Greek lawyers, Estonian lawyers, American lawyers, maybe British lawyers, maybe Asian lawyers, Japanese lawyers. They come from all over the world. You simply get to know by sitting in your own place over a cup of tea, coffee. You just get to know that what is happening in those countries. So that proves my point, and my knowledge has improved considerably by interacting with them because they know better than me. So therefore, mix with people who know better than you. So therefore, if you have got moot court, if you have got different kind of practical classes, even among students yourself, develop a small group where on a particular day, particular time, exchange your ideas, exchange your knowledge. Because as I remember, knowing law is one thing, but application is another thing. There will be a lot of clarity when you try to apply the law. So therefore, these are all great things to do. Whoever going in for litigation, etc., without moot court, you are nowhere. In the last 16 months sitting at home, I have attended so many virtual hearings. And every time you attend that, your knowledge improves like everything. Yes, go ahead and do it. But remember always knowledge and then its application. And then mix with someone who know better than you so that you will be able to express yourself and get the reaction from others. These are all great way of develop knowledge.
I think that is a lesson for our students, that this inquisition to learn should always be there. Then that networking would come and they would learn from others. But that inquisition towards learning should always be there in our students.
Garima, I will stop you. I think that's a very important thing that you say. And in the later part of your life, it will be quite helpful. As I said, I was the General Counsel, Company Secretary and Chief Legal Officer of Indian Aluminium. At that point of time, it was a Canadian multinational, the largest producer of aluminium in the world. It's a very big organization. And my chairman and managing director, he told me something very interesting. And this story I'm talking about 25 years back. One day he called me. We were negotiating a huge deal with a Norwegian organization. And he told me, Abhijit, what do you do in your spare time? I said that I study this, I study. He said, these are all worthless things that you do. I said, why? He said, in the spare time, read geography, read history, read culture. Otherwise, how can you really become a total professional, a total man? Life is not all about sections and subsections. That is one part. And second part, when you are negotiating with others, when you are meeting them over lunch or dinner, you don't discuss law or your deal. You discuss your own culture, geography, history, international politics, etc. So if you really get interested in those areas, that will be great. So the bottom line I'm trying to say is that it is not enough to attend all those moot courts and seminars and whatnot, but also try to develop interest in other subjects other than law and interest in people so that you can become a, fully grown up individual.
I think that's like a food for small talk. We should be aware about everything to start conversations and have fruitful conversations. True. So, what are some of the myths about in-house lawyers that you generally come across?
Some of the things is that we don't have any work and we are only there to create difficulties. Ye nahi ho sakta, wo nahi ho sakta, this is not possible, that is not possible. So the thought process in any organization is that we sit on the high horse, high chair, and Garima will come and ask me, sir, can I do it? Then I look like a judge and say, no, you can't. Yeah, you can. So that is the impression of any in-house legal counsel. And who is responsible? We ourselves to be blamed. Now, my philosophy in life is that you have acquired the knowledge, you are working in an organization for the betterment of the organization. So therefore, if you think that you are there because of the businesses, try to be helpful to them. Try to see what are their problems. Try to address those problems. Then only you will become a full-fledged professional. I measure my success in only one parameter. How many times the businesses, outside businesses, call you up and say, Avijit, we want to talk to you. But I don't have the time. No, you have to give us some time. Why? Because we have to go ahead like this. We need your, views on that. That is, Garima, my parameter. If I sit quietly and nobody comes to me, there must be something fundamentally wrong in me. So see from that perspective that how many times you are troubled by the businesses, by people outside the businesses. And then if you find and, think of yourself, my God, I don't have the time, because every time I am after meetings, after meetings, after meeting,
Right.
because businesses know you. Then you realize that you are performing your role as a very good in-house counsel.
So is it about being solution focused?
Very
Try
much.
to find out solutions, right? Right.
You just said it, Gariba. Try to be solution focused. And, very recently I did an interview, and there I say, don't try to think of the perfect solution, because solution evolves. There is nothing called perfect. There is nothing called best. So therefore, whenever you are trying to give a solution at that given point of time, given situation, this is the solution. But going forward, if you have to do the course correction, please go ahead and do the course correction.
Right, right. Sir, we have a couple of more questions, but I would like to ask if we have time. So I'll take up other questions, or else we'll try to wrap up since you have other engagements.
I can spare Garima exactly another 10 minutes.
Okay, great, great, sir. Sir, next question is, amongst our students that we have, majority of students are first generation lawyers. Is it true that their struggle to establish themselves goes a little longer than others? And what special things should they keep in mind while crafting their professional legal careers?
You look at the Bollywood, which is subject to discussions now, so I'm not getting into that. There is a limit beyond which your children can go because of your name. There is a limit beyond which my daughter won't be able to become a successful lawyer. She has to make her own name. So therefore, first generation lawyer has to struggle a bit more, but that's a great opportunity to learn. But a second generation lawyer, it is easy because in the home itself, there will be people who will be able to guide him. So that guidance is enormously valuable. But if I am the first generation, I should not lose heart. I have to work a bit more harder to become successful. So yes, my brief answer is that if I am second generation, it helps enormously. But if I am first generation, I have to put a little bit extra efforts. But then at the end of the day, whether first or second, I have to survive out of my own image, brand, and everything. I cannot boast myself around that, do you know, I am so-and-so's son, I am so-and-so's daughter. It does not work in the long run, especially in the 21st century.
Right, so the next question is a little skill oriented. So litigation requires extensive drafting skills. So what are the most commonly used research tools and skills for legal research to make the drafting skills up to date or to keep them up to date?
Well, I will give a general answer to that. I think drafting skill is required for everything, whether it is litigation, whether it is for commercial. As I keep telling, articulation, expressing yourself is extremely important. Even if you are preparing a simple uh, you know, office note which has got legal contour or connotation, you have to draft it in a way which is understood by the people. Whenever you are drafting, whether it is litigation or whether it is anything else, think of who is your audience. The audience in litigation is basically the judge, because he has to give the judgment, she has to give the judgment. So if you are unable to express yourself by applying law on the facts, then you will fail. So knowing the facts is important. Expression of the facts are important in any petition, application, submission. Similarly, application of law is equally important. Now, I really would not like to deal with what kind of tools, etc., available. I'm not very conversant with that, because normally when I deal with all kinds of international litigations, we are engaging the lawyers. I do not know what kind of tools, etc., they use. But what I find that basically it is the knowledge that matters, the application, the clarity in thought process. I hear their arguments of the Queen's Counsel hours and hours and hours in the courtroom. The kind of clarity of thoughts they have got, the clarity of expression that they have got, that is something. Now, how they will acquire that skill, I don't think there is any shortcut or ready-made formula available, but the basic contours of their skill coming from two things. They know the facts, they know the law, and they know how to merge the two, how to apply the law into the present facts of the case. That is what matters. And that skill is developed through multiple sources, your own knowledge, persistent study, understanding the problem. So it is a very long drawn kind of matter rather than using a tool here and there.
Great, sir. Sir, how do you describe your initial days as an advocate? How was it, and is it any different from a legal intern?
I'm a qualified advocate, I'm a qualified company secretary, I'm a qualified charter secretary. I started my career more as a company secretary than in the legal profession. But trust me, my sixth sense was there, which told me internally that finally at the end of the day, it will be legal profession which will thrive in future. As company secretary, I was a company secretary in some of the largest organizations in India. But there is a limit beyond which you cannot go. But the demand between company secretary and legal, company secretary is also a part of legal, no doubt about it. But then when you are discussing in a boardroom, you are really not discussing the Companies Act alone. You are discussing the overall legal stuff. So I realized maybe 25, 28 years back that perhaps if I go more for the legal profession, becoming a really an accomplished lawyer, then I will take care of my company secretary, charter secretary profession. I can take care of my legal profession also. So ultimately, at the end of the day, everything boils down to legal. In the boardroom, you don't discuss how to prepare a board minutes. You discuss, I'm going to set up this business, possible, not possible, tax aspect, geopolitical aspects, legal aspects. That is actually more important. So my advice to youngster will be, company secretaryship course is a great course, no doubt about it, but always have knowledge of law. So therefore, getting into LLB, etc., will be extremely important. So it is a combination, because what I want to see in a professional is a complete professional knowing law, knowing the boardroom practices, knowing the corporate governance practices, knowing everything. So you have to merge the two professions. And I'm glad that I took that step, slowly converting myself from a hardcore company secretary to hardcore legal professionals. And I have been giving this advice for the last 25 years to so many youngster professionals who have also changed their role more as a company secretary to legal professional, and they are doing great in today's time.
Right, right. So to wrap up the session, we would like to take one message for all the LC students who are listening to you. So one common message, though you've given a lot of learnings to them, a lot of messages, but one common message for all the students.
Be a good human being. If you are a good human being, everything will be taken care of. But it is not so easy. Am I a good human being? A, I don't know. B, only thing I know, try to be. There is no definition of good human being. But the definition of good human being that I can think of is try to be helpful to others. It is not theoretical, it is not philosophical. Because if you try to help, that help will come back to you in all shapes and sizes, which you will not do. And above all, you will feel good. Why I spend my time and energy free of cost for all these universities? I speak in seminars around the world. There are so much demand every time I have to travel. I attend seminars. The reason I do it, I feel it a pleasure if I share my own little humble experiences to others so that they can get benefit, and then finally I can also get benefit. So society, the God has given something people like us. So it is better that if I can share this with others, including the youngsters or those who do not have it. So have the motto in life, I want to be a good human being. It is not philosophical. It is not a lecture from me. But trust me, if you have that motto in your life, you will achieve unbelievable success and pleasure and happiness in your life. Happiness does not come just because I am the president or general counsel. Happiness comes because I am interacting with you. I am trying to give my own suggestions. And if it touches even 10% of any one of my youngsters' life, I'll be very grateful.
Great. Thank you so much, sir, from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of all the students, faculty members, members of the management who are present here. Thank you for gracing us with your presence today. Teaching us so many lessons to be a good professional and good person first, and building humanity. I think that is a lesson which we all need to learn and actually apply in our real lives. As you said, that application is way more important. Thank you so much once again,
Thank you.
sir. And to acknowledge your presence, we have a small memento to present. Can we please have the memento? That's for you, sir.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic. I'm so grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And we look forward to a continued association with you. Thank you.
Please do so. Thank you, Garima. Thank you, Vivek, Ravi. Thank you. Bye.